very warm welcome to you on the NAPE website. Now, you represent CUSP, which, as we can see on the screen, means Curriculum with Unity Schools Partnership. In fact, it mirrors my logo on, on the other side as well. So, folks, you're not seeing double today. You're absolutely fine there. So what is your role? What do you actually do in the company?
It's a great question. It is the best job in the world that I have. We've created it. So I'm the Curriculum Development Director, and I work with the very talented Lauren Meadows, and she's my pedagogical twin. And between us,
Mhm.
we orchestrate evidence-led frameworks, pedagogy, and resources for schools.
Wow, that sounds like a heck of a job because, of course, on your website it talks about you mind, if you like, 700 schools or helps them with 700 schools curriculum.
Yes. Yeah. So we have, I think it's about 850 to 900 now.
Oh,
So we
it's
have.
going up all the
Yeah,
time.
it is, and the reason for that is that what we do is about a partnership, and it's very much around the way we work together. One
Mhm.
of the principles we set up with our dear colleague Dr. Tim Coulson, who was our CEO until this year, has now moved into a
Yeah.
very senior position in the DFE.
Ah,
We
yeah.
didn't want to just produce resources, and it's very, very important that we think about how we engage with the community. And the bridge that was broken at that point was the research was telling one thing, but the
Yes.
practice was completely different. And
Yes.
the problem was people were going on courses. Yeah, I've done a course on Rosenshine, I've got a poster, and that's good enough. But you're not living it. And the
No.
question is,
No.
how well do you interpret research-led practice and
Yes.
what is happening? So we saw this sort of broken bridge, so we thought we'd got to mend it. And so we set up this partnership, and we were very clear that we wanted schools to be part of that partnership to help us refine the offer, because nothing is static, everything is agile, and we have to respond to the changing environments in the world. And over the last 8 years, there has been incredible change around COVID, poverty, conflict, and the advancements of technology. And so the curriculum has to be agile. It cannot just be a static, dusty old document.
No, never has been. That's right.
Exactly. And
Yes.
what we need to do is make sure that we are fully engaged with that. So this is where the partnership really stands up to us. So this is where we accept that challenge. If
Okay,
it's
before we go on, it sounds to me as if the company is trying to get schools to be smarter because obviously they've got constraints on them as well, notwithstanding all the ongoing government documentation in terms of frameworks for reading and writing, or the review of the assessment and curriculum. So you're quite right; it has to be agile. But schools have to be smarter because they're so constrained in lots of different ways. You've mentioned poverty as well. So there's lots of challenges for them. So I'm grateful about that. Now let's get to the sort of nub of CUSP, and let's, if you don't mind, share your website with us and take us through that journey,
brilliant. So what I'll do, first of all, is all right with you. I'll just share some principles
please.
around that, and then I'll move to the website to show you what we have.
Okay. Yep, that's
So,
fine.
so first of all, when we talk about CUSP, it's that partnership, it's co-constructive, and it's this point here that is really important. It's this point here about distilling evidence into practice.
Mm,
And that means that we then return back to our partnership. So we have this cyclical model, which is really powerful.
yeah.
We learn from successes, and we also learn from where we can improve. And so we're decent enough to know actually some things work, some things don't. And the evidence is our guiding light. What we know is that when we have a family of schools, and here's the UK model, over
Wow, look at
850
that.
schools,
Yes.
we know that all these schools are contributing towards what we're doing. So the partnership, we provide subject leader sessions where we have really in-depth conversations about current things for science, for reading, for history, for geography, for art, for DT, really important things. But it's also international. So now we have schools in the Middle East, we have schools in Australia, so schools that are using CUSP because humans learn in the same way, regardless where you live.
Yeah.
Humans, humans, and that's really very important. And the principles behind CUSP are the cognitive neuroscience that we were talking about earlier on. And
Yes.
these are the principles that we go off, is that the simple model of the mind is really important, and the working memory is the gatekeeper to all learning. And if we don't pay attention to that, then we won't be able to access learning. So
No.
we need to help children attend to their learning and engage. They need to practice, 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 and that will then encode into their long-term memory. And that long-term memory will build what we call schemas of knowledge that we can
Yeah.
then reuse when we come to new content. And it's that principle that works. Well, what we've also done is built in really excellent teaching routines through the principles of instruction. We've worked with the EEF through pilot projects, and we've proven our vocabulary strategies have incredible impact because we know language deficits are, as you say, a concern of all schools. Children on entry are coming in with lower language, more difficulties, and what we need to do is make sure that those children are exposed to the highest quality teaching of vocabulary. And it's not word lists, and it's certainly not about just saying a word and hoping they learn it. There is specific strategies we're built in. And then we build in what we call generative learning, which is all about task design. And what we noticed was that task design was one of the last things that teachers thought about. They might be kleptomaniacs and get loads of things together, loads of resources, but
As they
how's that
do.
going to help
Yeah.
children think hard? And how's it going to help them learn? And that's the crucial point to what we're doing. So just a page here about what CUSP is. If we take the research here that tells us about what is the biggest lever schools have, and it's the quality of teaching. It
Yeah.
has 3 times more impact than any other factor. Now, if we know that, then we've got to think about how we put this together. And so, what's really important to remember is that we've got to have a really coherent curriculum framework. Our teaching has to be really focused around what the evidence tells us how humans learn. The tasks have then got to be really purposeful and engaging and get children thinking hard. And all of that has to be provided through teacher and pupil facing resources. Underpinning it is a piece of work which we are incredibly proud of. We worked very closely with some of the leading assessment organizations in the country, and our curriculum aligned assessment is revolutionizing the way that we assess and the purpose of assessment. To the point where we are giving advice to governments and national organizations around what we're doing. And we are at the precipice of ensuring that we are nearly at the point technologically where 30 scripts can be marked in 2.5 minutes using optical marking strategies and AI. And the research tells us that AI marking with teacher oversight is about 95 to 96% accurate, which is higher than human marking accuracy. So really exciting elements coming forward there.
Can I just stop you there? Isn't there a danger, which is often leveled at assessment, that if you like, assessment is a wagging the tail, if you like, of curriculum, and not the other way around?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So assessment, the purpose of assessment is to find out have they learnt what's in the curriculum.
Sure.
And too many assessments, external assessments, focus on redundant content. So they might have a program where you're assessing things that haven't been taught, which brings out frustrations and also demotivates students and teachers.
Yeah.
So if you have curriculum aligned assessment, you're assessing how well have they learnt what's in the curriculum, and as a result, what are you going to do about it, and how will that change your teaching going forward? So one of the big questions we pose um, is is our teaching better and more effective with the assessments we have right now?
Hmm.
Bottom
And of
line.
course, that will change, as you say, as the curriculum changes in itself.
Yes, exactly. So really, really exciting things there.
Thank
Um,
you. Yeah.
just a couple more things I would like to share is that really important about CUSP are the big ideas. So built around the I suppose the things that the concepts we want children to walk away with or know more about, such as migration or understanding others,
Yeah.
or technology and the advancement of humanity. Now, these big ideas are infused across the curriculum. So, for example, if we talk about migration, that is you bump into that when you study Boy at the Back of the Classroom through your literature spine, or you study the island or the Windrush generation. In history, you might be focusing on the Windrush. We might also be focusing on the Stone Age migration of people and through to the Iron Age and the Bronze Age. So migration is bumped into multiple times, so you have a really deep understanding of it. And these big ideas help us position really powerful schemas. And the way that we've done it is by having curriculum coherence. So here's an example. Year three, a beautiful book about chronology, about how a pebble comes to be. It's an incredible book. We
Yeah.
talk about the formation and then its journey through time. So they're reading that, but at the same time, they're learning about rocks in science.
Yeah.
And at the same time, they're learning about the Stone Age to the Iron Age. So you can then talk about the different types of rock, why tools were made perhaps out of igneous rocks as opposed to maybe some of the sedimentary rocks. And then children
Yes.
write about this. So here's an example of year three non-chronological writing about how they use and can talk about different types of rock. And that curriculum coherence gives us that element of a power. So these are all examples from the website there.
Right. Thank you.
Very important. Now, we talk about a curriculum, but actually, what CUSP is a pedagogical approach as well. So it's not just a curriculum framework; it's a pedagogical approach, and this is taken from the most recent and most relevant ways that, say, from the EEF or from Rosenshine's principles. We've distilled it down into these phases. Now, the point of pedagogical routines is that all humans need routines. So lots of schools have routines on entry in school. Where do you put your book bag? Where do you put your water bottle? But how clear are the learning routines? And that should be our bread and butter. And if our learning routines are coherent and they are really obvious, then children will engage further with them. But the important message here, this is not a straitjacket. This is an intelligent provocation to teachers. And we ask them, do they do enough at the right times? So at the start of any lesson, we should connect to prior learning because the most important part is we know that learning is all built upon prior experiences. So do you activate prior knowledge to position new learning in a place
Yeah.
that is new? Secondly, the
Are
bread
they
and
making sense of it effectively
well, exactly.
from
Yeah,
what they've learned before? Yeah.
where are they putting it?
The good old spiral curriculum. Yeah, I
Well,
understand.
that is really important that we come back to things. Um, the bread and butter of teachers that they think about explanations and giving clear examples, and teachers do that really, really well.
Mm.
We just need to look at the components of that. So clear instruction of vocabulary, core concepts are explained, and that can be in a really multi-sensory dynamic way to engage children, but not overloading their working memory. So you're focusing their attention. Now, the problem we found was that actually teachers then bypassed the thinking process and we had to get it in books. Write it in books, get it down. We've got to prove we're learning. Well, this part here, the attempt part, is where children, as you rightly say, make sense of learning. This is where they start to process and have a go with it. And this is the practice, practice, practice element. And this is where teachers can really hear and see how well children are grasping and grappling with the concepts. And if children are not getting it, then I need to go back to my explanations and I need to go back to further examples. Once I'm secure with this attempt phase, then I can move them into the apply phase where we do something else with it. There's no point applying it if you haven't got it, because what are you applying? And then all children, regardless of their starting points, we deepen their understanding, we sophisticate their thinking, we build it in there. So this is a flexible model. And if I was working with a class who perhaps had lower prior attaining, they might have had a very chaotic curriculum in the past, what I might be doing more of is I might give one example and then I might have to give another example to show another case of it. And so what you do is you build your teacher expertise around those pedagogical routines. And
If I
that,
can just stop you there, Alex.
Yeah.
Alex has mentioned Rosenshine a number of times. I'll put a link in the description if you want to read more about him, because it appears to me that, particularly with this slide, there is reference to the Rosenshine, if you like, theory. Thank you,
Yes.
Alex.
No, that's absolutely right. And then cognitive load theory from John Sweller is really
Yeah.
important, as well
Yeah.
as Fiorello and Meyer's research into task design. Really very useful.
Yep.
So all of this is really important in CUSP, but people might say, well, how do we go about that as a school? So implementation is really important, ensuring that professional development is all about ensuring teachers and leaders are ready to teach, and you're ready to do that with all the resources. So on the CUSP website, of which I shall go to now,
Okay.
we have all the professional development areas. Let me bring this up here. So this is the CUSP website you can see here. Let's bring it across. And there we go. And so what's really important in this is the central part of professional development. And we don't just say, give this to teachers and then you learn it. We say, as a group, as a school or a multi-academy trust, and we're just working very closely with EACT at the moment on all their primary, secondary, and special schools on implementing CUSP. So we have large mats joining us, EACT, Mater Christi, for example. Also, we've had other Catholic mats as well join us. So large groups, Lyme Academy Trust, all of them together have the shared language of the pedagogical approaches. And so to do that, we need to make sure that teachers and leaders have really clear implementation pathways. The first point is get everyone talking the same language about the science. And the important part about that is the cognitive science. And so introducing CUSP is really important. And so what we have here are 15-minute short burst introductions of which are recorded videos, and then you've got handbooks that you can then use to mark up and you can use as a point of reference for your staff. So you all start, all your noses are pointing in the same direction. And we think about the introductions, understanding the evidence, and you can see here you mentioned principles of instruction. So we have a short video clip and handbooks, and all of these are built into the principles and practice that we go about that help us really understand the CUSP curriculum because it is a cultural shift around expectations. And the thing is, we know it works because we've got like 850 plus schools. We have 12 lead schools dotted around the country that have completely embedded CUSP, typically in places of high deprivation. And
Yeah.
I'll give one example here. So we have the Great Whitefield Primary in Liverpool, top 1% of all deprived areas of the country. And children on entry typically have very low language acquisition, and they leave above national expectations within the 7-year journey from early years through to year six.
Very
Um,
good.
so within 2 years, we have schools that have moved from low attaining schools, yeah, say in Birmingham, averaging on 30% combined, implemented CUSP and with complete fidelity. And within 2 years, those schools are hitting now this year 80% combined. And that is a mark of a life changer. So what we're doing is making the difference for those children and also making a difference for teachers. That's really important. So
Mm.
I'm very passionate about this, and so is Lauren. And what we try and do is we can spend a lot of time talking through things. Are there any subjects you'd like me to share and just show you examples of resources here, Mike?
Yes, before we go to that, you mentioned a number of schools. What sort of feedback are you getting from those teachers? Are they finding planning the curriculum easier? Is it much clearer, the intention of the curriculum for them?
Yeah. Yeah, so the principles are we're making it really, really easy to teach high with high effect. teaching is never going to be a job where it's going to be I'm gonna have a cruise because no one ever jumps into teaching on that basis. No, I've been in teaching what 31 years now, um,
Yes.
and it's really important to remember that we all put the hard work in, we put the hard yards in. What we've got to do is make sure those yards are doing the right things, and sometimes we can get focused on the things that we think are right, but actually might not help us as well. So I'll give you a really clear example.
Yes.
We don't ask teachers to plan. And so Sunday nights are not about planning. What we do is provide really high quality curriculum resources that are editable. And then we say to teachers, you need to prepare to teach. So that means you need to become fluent and rehearse and practice using those resources. And at that point, you're thinking carefully about who's in front of me, because every class is unique. Who's in front of me? What do they need? My locality, what can I add to this now? And
Yeah.
so instead of
Very important.
recreating everything from the start, you have a very ambitious and clear direction, but then you make it your own. And that preparing to teach has transformed teachers' workload and transformed expectations, but has also built routines in for children, which is really exciting. That's the sort of feedback we get from, well, we have over 1 million pupils accessing CUSP now. So
Wow.
we have
Brilliant.
lots of children. So that's
Well,
just one
that's a
example.
very nice introduction to looking at specific curriculum areas. I'm working with a school as a governor, looking at writing. They've just joined you,
Excellent.
and geography and history.
Oh,
So,
lovely.
should we start off with writing? Is that possible?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So
Primary
let's
writing,
let's look at
reading and
writing.
writing. Yeah.
So we go to reading and writing. What particular year group would you like?
Well, let's go for year twos.
Okay. A fabulous year group. So
Absolutely.
the way we think about curriculum writing, so I'm actually going to go to reading and writing, go to the subject leader part here. So I'm going to look at the long-term sequences here. Just going to bring this page up. Let's have a look. There we go. So when we're looking at the long-term sequences, say for year
All
two,
right. Yeah.
year two up here. So these are the books that they're going to study. And you can see that the purple are the school's choice, so the agility. But then we have our CUSP writing curriculum here. And what we have is a reduce and revisit model. So we don't just teach genres like 16 different or 32 different genres. We
Yeah.
teach very clearly about the nuts and the bolts, and these are broken into 2 week units. We teach the mechanisms of writing, and then we enrich that with extended opportunities to write, and then we connect it with the wider curriculum. But you
Yeah.
notice here that we introduce, that means we introduce the foundational knowledge around block A's, so character descriptions, poems, simple retelling of narratives as you go
Yes.
through. And then when you go to the orange, we revisit. Now that means we can feed forward our assessment. So when we're looking at formal limitations in block A here,
Yeah.
the teacher's assessments at the end of that gives us the opportunities then to feed that forward from when we revisit it. So then we can make more of that. And that's the question. Does the information we get from our assessments help us teach with more effect and help
Mm.
us help those children? So that's really important. So that's the reduce and revisit. And those are the block Bs are more sophisticated and they take their learning forward if necessary. But it depends upon what they've learned in the first case. So that gives
Yes.
you sort of an idea of those. And then if I go back to the writing part, here we go. Year two. Let's look at auto-term writing. Here we go. And so we might be looking at stories from other cultures and just bring up the block A. So what the resources teachers get is a teacher guide, but you also get a base slide deck. And that's part of the preparing to teach. So I'm
Okay.
just going
Yeah.
so they're all editable. So I'm just going to bring up this here. So this one is broken into 3 parts. And we're very clear about what pupils will know, the substantive knowledge, and what will pupils be able to do. And so they know that stories can be set in different cultures, but with their skills, if you like, will be able to include details that show an understanding of culture, and they will be able to write a story plan using the framework.
Yeah.
So it's broken into 3 parts. And so this is what the teaching is going to be. You can see where it sits within the big picture. So where it sits within that part there.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And what we've built into it is a
Week by
teacher
week.
guide. So
Yeah.
here's the 6 phases. Here is, we're going to teach them about capital letters for proper nouns. So here's the explain and example guidance, which we give teachers. Here's the attempt task. Here's the apply and challenge task of what success should look like. Now, that is a teacher guide, and you will mark up and you'll make your notes on it. But it's lived through, if I go back to the base slide decks, and I'll just bring the PDF up here.
Yes.
So here we have children have a knowledge organizer they can access. And this is the teacher slide, and these are in PowerPoint as well as PDF.
Yeah.
So these are the things you put on the screen. So the children have what we call a knowledge note that is in their book as their clear point of reference. This means that they have a physical locational cue, so they're not distracted from their learning. And this is what you're going to be accessing. And now the teacher will connect to prior knowledge and so activate oral discussions. They will
Mm.
teach vocabulary. So they'll choose a word and they'll work through that. And we teach children how to run those. And then we'll go into the explain part. So the writing part is linked into that. So it gives definitions. Also, then let's read together. Let's use this. Which details suggest a different culture to our own? And so we might read this together using prosodic reading strategies. Now, we work very closely with Hearts for Learning around reading fluency. And so we might say, right, we're going to read this together. I might use echo reading. The
Yes.
market came,
Yeah.
my turn. And then Juma looked up at the clock on the wall. My turn. Juma looked up at the clock on the wall. And
Mm.
then you use that and you break it into different clauses.
Yeah.
So the teacher walks through these with the examples and then gives children that chance to attempt. And what we then have are lots of examples from those. We have some resources that teachers can print out. So here's your knowledge organizer. Here are the knowledge notes. But also we did a cost center analysis of we have these now printed for our teachers, and it's cheaper to do that centrally through our printing company than it is for teachers to print these and cut them themselves. And so
Yeah.
many schools are now moving, getting rid of photocopiers or
Yeah.
reducing their costs. We also have supplementary texts, so children will read the text, mark up on the text. They will identify where those nouns will be used. They will have images they can use, and they will access the learning from it. But we also have ingredients for success. So this is assessments that the teachers will use with children. So it's a shared, focused area. So create a clear and simple story plot. Okay, so show where does this show in your work? So they'll mark it up against there. And we find these for teachers are incredibly powerful because this tells us how well have they learnt the intended curriculum. And then we have questions that teachers can access and children can access quizzes, and that's about retrieval practice. So there's a whole range of questions you can dial into, which will be really, really helpful. So as for
Great.
small schools, we have mixed age
Yeah.
considerations, which are how we teach mixed age
Ah,
classes.
mixed age group. Yeah.
It's really important that we think about children in front
Year
of us.
two, three, year one, two, particularly. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's just an example there of writing, and we also have portfolios of moderated examples of writing, and so we build those, and so teachers can
Oh,
see
that's
what a
useful.
really great example looks like.
Yes.
We can use those. So we're looking in here. So I take. Let's have a look. Thinking about those. Poetry developing. So that's yeah. So you have examples of there. Let's go. So let's have a look at. Let's go to primary writing. Year five, summer term. Let's get spring. Let's have a look at third person's stories. There we go. So exemplification of writing. So then we have moderated examples of the expectations of what it looks like, either externally moderated or through our own moderation teams who are moderators anyway. And you can
Yes.
see here how the ingredients for success are used. My work shows, my teacher thinks. So really helpful, useful things. And the more we do of that, the better it becomes. So that's writing. What about history or geography? Just quickly before we move on.
You choose.
Well, I think I love both as writing, but
Unfair.
let's
Yeah,
go
go
to
on.
geography year six.
Yeah, six. Yeah.
what's really important is that we have a range of different tools within the curriculum. So we have strong start, so conceptual things, so lessons that will help build locational knowledge or scaling connection. That's really important to remember that these two sometimes are the hardest to learn. So we might need to teach this before we get into the actual geography. So if I was looking at physical processes, for example, there, um, we have our teacher guide, which is really important. And what this has is the navigation of the questions for every
Yeah.
lesson. And every lesson has a question because a question causes curiosity. And at the end of that lesson, the children will answer it and it builds towards their understanding towards
Mm.
physical processes. Every single history, geography, science, art, DT has a subject knowledge clip. And so you can watch a 10-minute explainer of one of our experts talking you through the concepts, the misconceptions, each knowledge note that will help with that. And so you can see that the sequence of learning is set out very clearly. What we have then is a dual coded knowledge organizer, which has been deliberately chunked and planned. So the top part is about structure of the earth, the middle section is about tectonic plates, and then we've got mountains, earthquakes, volcanoes as a result. We build in disciplinary knowledge as well as substantive knowledge. So thinking about place and space, scale and relationship, questions you could ask children as a geographer to get them thinking and using that disciplinary knowledge. Common misconceptions that teachers might come across that we need to avoid. Reading across the curriculum through partner companies such as Curriculum Visions and the great Dr. Brian Knapp, who's a great colleague and friend of ours, but also references to great things outside of in the world of the internet.
Mm.
Vocabulary instruction, teachers don't need to make the words up. You need to be having a really clear understanding of what they are. So when we talk
Yeah.
about churning, what does that mean? Or buckle. So here is a clear definition, but also the etymology and the morphology and the
Yeah.
idioms. So we build that into it, and that's built into the base slide decks. And then we have the thing that has been revolutionary for CUSP that exists only in CUSP is our knowledge notes. So the knowledge note are physical representation of the learning that sits in front of the children on their page. And so you have the question, and on the left-hand side you can see the knowledge note here. And these are physical cues to allow children to access the learning within the lesson. And then they will use that to explain and go through the process of learning. We also provide teachers with thinking hard tasks. You might choose one of these. So it might be that I want you to think hard about the layers of the earth. Let's build some of these words into it. Or I might have a provocation that a teacher can use. Like Amy says that lava comes from the liquid inner core of the earth and that magma comes from the mantle. Is she right? That's a great thinking hard provocation once you've acquired that foundational knowledge. So
Yeah.
those exist within the curriculum resources, and these are all printed out. And what we
Good. If I can again stop you,
call
it's, as you know, the primary school tradition in the past has centered around progressive education in terms of first-hand experience. So is there reliant, if you like, on CUSP, on the teacher in the classroom and the context that teacher finds itself in and the contextual information around the school to provide those children with that first-hand experience so they can then grapple, if you like, second-hand visual representation. It's quite clear you CUSP has gone a long way into looking at the vocabulary, what it actually means, and that is terrific. And there's no doubt in my mind that the detail that CUSP has gone into is terrific. But how does that sit within the primary school tradition of progressing children using all their senses?
Absolutely. So that's a very important question. So when we think about how children learn, sometimes teachers jump to an abstract concept. Say we're looking at layers of
Which
the
is the
earth,
danger.
isn't it?
Yes.
It's quite abstract. Or we're thinking about local history in the past, which isn't in our sphere of understanding right now.
Mm.
So what we talk about is the tangible physical things we can do to engage children in understanding about the elements of what we're trying to explain. And
Good.
this is where physical representations are really important. So if we're looking at, say, geography, for example, we run workshops for schools of how to build your locality into it. So if we are, say, in Cumbria and we are studying our local environment, the resources are editable. So you can drop a map of your area, your school, say Shank Hill in Cumbria, into there. Physical geography, when we're looking at the sort of mountains, rivers, streams, thinking about those art parts, they're going to be unique to the locality, aren't they?
Of
And so what
course.
we encourage schools to do is to teach the foundational knowledge. These are some of the physical features, but go outside in your locality and
Please
then
do. Yeah.
take the knowledge note with you because, as you know, when your children put a coat on and go outside, sometimes the learning's left back in the classroom. They
Yeah.
disassociate. So we bring
Absolutely.
we
Yeah.
bring our knowledge notes with us, and we say, okay, so now we're thinking about maybe what are the physical features in our locality here? So we know about say hills. We know about fields being a human feature because
Mm.
just because it's green doesn't make it a physical feature, does it? And so we got these misconceptions. So then we can start looking around in our local area using those. And then it's that part where children have physical, tangible evidence of those things before we move into the abstract part of that. And so this
Yes.
is where chronology or knowing about the past and having artifacts and elements are really important for us. So it's one of the things which some schools have said about the knowledge-rich curriculum, of which Becky Francis, who's run the Curriculum Assessment Review,
Mm.
is championing. And
Yes.
the DfE recommended Becky Francis to come and see CUSP because of its impact for
Mm.
the Curriculum Assessment Review. And we are proud to have provided evidence to the Curriculum Assessment Review around
Mm.
what
Yeah.
works.
Well done. Yeah.
So we're really proud of that. The key part of that is not a dry and dusty curriculum. You make it
That is the
purposeful,
danger. Yeah.
relevant to your children because
Yeah.
every class is unique in front of you. When I teach, I was teaching in Barrow in Finesse before half term with a school in challenging circumstances. They've taken CUSP on, so I was modelling some gallery lessons where I had a lot of people watching with the year
Mm.
two class I'd never met before, but they were just the most beautiful children and their desire to learn was phenomenal. But physically, I had to have things which represented the abstract things I was about to teach them about invertebrates. And so,
Yeah.
an example of that is we
Exactly.
need to feel a spine. Let's feel our spines. Let's feel our backbones.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Good. Thank you for answering that so well. That's absolutely brilliant. Did you want to talk about anything else before we talked about the cost to schools at all?
So I think the thing to remember about CUSP is that, as I said at the beginning, it's agile and it constantly reflects the changing nature of the the culture and the environment that our children are experiencing right now.
Yes.
So when schools join our partnership, they it's not just like a ticket you get and that's all you get. You get free access to our subject leader sessions. You get access to our resources. You get access to others lead schools. So we connect people together in your local area. So Laura and I were working in Leeds a couple of weeks ago, and we connected together about 70 schools around Leeds who are all using CUSP.
Yes. We had our conference there this year, funnily
It's
enough.
brilliant. Leeds Racecourse. I've never been there before. A beautiful place. Love
Mm.
Leeds.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So really important. So for us to go to those places and meet and connect with people.
Mm. Mm.
So
Well, that,
part,
that that's great. Sorry, I'm going to cut you short there.
don't
This has
worry.
been absolutely fascinating, tremendous. So, when the school I work with joined CUSP, there was a special offer going on. So they got writing, but they got a couple of modules thrown in for good measure. Is that special offer still going, or and how much does it cost?
That's a really good question. So I am the worst person to ask about this, and so is Lauren. We give it
That's all
away.
right. I can put it up on the screen afterwards.
But I mean, the costs. We have a business team that run the costs.
Yes, of course.
Depends on what level you want to enter at. So there are different levels of cost. So what we have are partnership fees, which all schools pay because that keeps you up to date with all the updates we give, the national landscape, the Ofsted support we offer. So We've had 7 pilot inspections and 1 full inspection since the new framework. We've learned an awful lot from that. So we have
Wow.
webinars based around our intelligence. So we share that with the community. So anyone's welcome to join us.
Great. Yes.
We have our subject leader sessions, which are part of that. So really important to remember that people can access those. They are recorded and they're kept on the Padlets, and we have shared examples. And those Padlets, which is like a big community board where our lead schools post examples of learning, so you can see children's books, what's happening from those schools that have embedded CUSP with fidelity. Here's a
Mm.
great example. So we have that accessible to all. We have our festivals, and yesterday we had our spoken language festival. Well, these are all part of joining CUSP, and so we had a Netflix magician called DMC, who is a brilliant ambassador for the spoken word. Oracy is really important for us. So
Yes, of
those
course.
moments.
Yeah.
We have our food festivals, we have our Money Matters festivals. All of these things are bring enrichment to the curriculum, and we call them curriculum moments. And that's come from the innovation of schools in our partnership. So one school very close to my heart is called Holdsworth Valley in Newmarket. And about 8 years ago, I was asked to support the school as a sort of emergency leadership team, and now it's a school of incredible learning, absolute fidelity. That school introduced curriculum moments. Those moments are what we are talking about earlier on is about the realistic, the physical representation of something that will build you that will get you hooked into the curriculum, or it'll be something you look forward to showcase your knowledge. And their attendance has gone up, particularly as they've been broadcasting and telegraphing, we're going to have this curriculum moment. This is something we're aiming at. All your knowledge or learning will be showcased at this point. And what we saw is attendance rose because children were engaged. Love it.
Mm. Mm.
So
And
I've sort of bypassed,
hopefully parents as well.
well, they are essential to the
Mm.
success of our children. So there are partnership fees. If you just join for reading and writing, then there are, you can join for um, as a headline figure for a small school. It could be like £1,500, but for larger schools, obviously it's scaled up.
It's scaled up.
And
Yes.
then we have partnerships. So the wonderful book providers, Peters, are our preferred provider. And so we get 35% off books for all schools. So schools can then access that discount. And we work with Apple, and we work with other significant partners such as
Mm.
Shobi. And what we do is we test things out, we prove they work, and if they work, like Digimaps is geographical mapping,
Yes.
Curriculum Visions are our sort of wider curriculum books that are accessible online. All of those things, we say we know they work because we've tested them. What if you want to access them, they'll give you a discount. So it's sort of levering the best out of the best people.
Good. Okay. Well, I'll put up even more figures underneath us. Uh, I, we're obviously very grateful at NAPE, and hopefully our members will enjoy watching this, plus those beyond the NAPE membership. So thank you very much, Alex, for joining us today. And it's quite clear to me that CUSP have done a huge amount of work, which has taken the government's attention as well, which is all good for CUSP. And I think you've got a job for life in terms of constantly changing the curriculum content.
Tinkering.
Yes, tinkering away there. So you never know, I might be speaking to you in a couple of years' time.
Please.
Anyway, thank you very much indeed for today, Alex, and good work done. Thank you. Bye
Our
for
pleasure.
now.
Thanks for inviting me.